Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Lavonne here. So today I'm doing a very exciting video. I'm going to be sharing all about my pregnancy journey. And boy, was it a journey. In this video, I'm going to share all about my first trimester, second trimester, third trimester, and all the symptoms that came along with those different stages of pregnancy. I was gonna share my birth story as well, but I think that deserves its own video because there is so much to share on that. So I will separate that video. So if you're interested in my birth story, hopefully by the time this is out, oh no, this is gonna come out first. Okay, if you're watching this like loads and loads of years later, my birth story should be out by now, so you can go watch that separately. But if you're watching this in real time, next video will be all about my birth story. As always, baby is asleep because that's the only time we can film in this house. Anyway, let's go back to last year. I found out I was pregnant. Oh, I need to put a disclaimer in this video, just a disclaimer, okay? If you are a bit squeamish or you don't want to know like TMI type of things, this video might not be for you. I think that the target audience for this video is really the girls. It might not be for everybody. If you just want to know some things and how you can help and support, you know, like your wife, your sister, your family, your friends, sure, join in. But some things may not be for your audience, okay? I find out that I'm pregnant. We're very, very happy. My husband and I were so excited to start this journey. And we started sharing with our friends and with our family. And it was really, really nice, a very wholesome experience. Now, by the time I found out I was pregnant, I was already 4 weeks along. One thing you should know is pregnancy is measured by the first day of your last period. So it's a bit weird of a metric. So that's why technically I was 4 weeks pregnant, but I was only really 2 weeks from conception, if that makes sense. It's a whole thing. And once I knew that I was pregnant, I feel like it might be a mental thing, but my symptoms started to make sense and I started to be more aware of the different symptoms. And in my first trimester, what stood out the most was the fatigue. Oh my goodness. When they say pregnancy tired is no joke, they're not joking. I was so tired every single day. I would come home from work and I would literally pass out on the couch, and that was my whole evening. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't cook, I couldn't clean, even like preparing for my lessons because I was a teacher just took so much strength to do. I was so tired. I'll see if I can insert some clips of like how my husband would find me 90% of the time when he got home from work. Other than that though, I didn't really feel anything else. I would say maybe for the next couple of weeks, just the fatigue, it was very intense. From about week 7, I think that's when I started to feel nauseous. I had my first round of nausea when I was about 7.5 weeks along. I think I felt sick for the first time just after I hit 8 weeks because we was actually supposed to go visit my in-laws. And I was so sick that I couldn't go. And that's how my mother-in-law actually started suspecting that I was pregnant. I wasn't really sick again. I was just nauseous for basically the rest of my first trimester. The main symptoms in my first trimester was fatigue, nausea, and food aversions. Food was disgusting to me. Which, if you know me, you know I love food. So that is actually a wild statement to say. Food was so horrible. I did not want to eat anything. I literally lived off of toast and chips. Like it was really dry, bland foods, oats, stuff like that. But like actual comfort food, I just horrible. Stew, nastiness. Food aversions were a big thing, but I didn't really have any cravings, to be honest with you. I just didn't like food. And that was the first trimester. It was it flew by because again, I did find out when I was already 4 weeks along. So it was only really another 2 months before I entered into my second trimester. Second trimester was for the most part quite blissful, I have to say. It was so much better. I felt better. I was still tired, but it wasn't as couch rotting tiredness. My nausea was a bit better. I could eat again. I was super hungry, so I really enjoyed myself. So it was a lot better, and I was starting to have a little bump. So it was very, very exciting, right, to enter that trimester. 1 second, let me just get my notes. I have some notes that I wrote down throughout like my pregnancy bump log. I'll see if I can put a little screenshot of it. scale I can't explain. Wait, maybe I'm lying. I have to re-record this part. Second trimester started off bumpy. I just reread my notes from my bump log that I made while I was pregnant. And I think I remember the end of my second trimester much more than the beginning of it. But the beginning was very, very much hard. I think to a degree, maybe even harder than my first trimester, because in my second trimester I started to feel a lot of pain, like aches and pains, and I think that was because of the relaxing in my body and everything was moving to make room obviously for my growing baby. I had a lot of back pain, a lot of cramping, I had a lot of discomfort as well. I was still very nauseous actually. Towards, I would say, the middle-ish part of my second trimester, I started to actually be sick more consistently, and unfortunately this was around Christmas season. So just before Christmas, every time I'd go to work, I would literally throw up every single morning at work. I literally had morning sickness, but it was all day sickness because I would also be sick after work, after school, at home. I was just so sick all the time, and I couldn't keep a lot of food down, and food was still very much disgusting to me. I couldn't eat unless it was really, really plain things like rice and stuff. What I did enjoy though is that my bump was starting to grow and I was starting to feel like little flutters. I wouldn't say I felt kicks and movements yet, but I could feel little butterflies. That was really, really nice and was really, really encouraging, especially because for the most part, you don't really want, before you can feel baby, you don't know what's going on, and it can be very anxiety inducing to not know what's happening, right? And I did have a mini scare when I was about 15 weeks pregnant because I had intense cramping to the extent that I went to the hospital and they checked me out and checked my blood pressure, checked like the normal stuff, and they had to actually check to see if I wasn't dilating because of the type of symptoms I was having. Luckily I wasn't. My cervix was very much still closed. They gave me some medicine to go back home and they just told me to just get some rest. And I did, and I felt better after a few days, but that was not fun. And this was only like 15 weeks. And I remember at the time thinking to myself, I have got another, 25 weeks of pregnancy to go. Then we get to Christmas season and I'm sick, I'm throwing up all the time. I would say I started to feel better about maybe 17, 18 weeks. And this is just before I told work I was pregnant. So around 18 weeks, I started to feel better. I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. And this is, I think, my favorite part of being pregnant. And I really understand why people say the second trimester is the summer of pregnancy, because my bump was starting to show, I could eat again, and I actually was enjoying eating again. And I loved food. I obviously love food now, but I loved food when I was pregnant. Oh my goodness. Food was like an experience. An awakening. It was so nice. So I was eating again. I had my energy back. I wasn't as tired. My nausea had, for the most part, resolved. Like I would get nauseous here and there, but it was nowhere near the intensity of like week 7 to 17. I was having a good time. It's just really, really nice. And that's obviously closer to the time when we had our anatomy scan, or anomaly scan, I think we call it in the UK, so the 20-week scan. And just before we had the scan, actually, we found out the gender privately so that we could confirm the gender at the scan. Our friends gifted us a blood test gender thing. They planned a special gender reveal thing for us at home with just me and my husband. It was really, really special. I think I'll include a clip of that as well. So we found out we were having a girl, and it was so exciting because I really wanted a girl. I would have been happy, to be honest, with a girl or a boy, but I've always wanted to have a girl first. It's just my own personal thing. Like there's no reason to the madness. It's just what I wanted. Bump is bumping. Work knew now, so I could really show off my bump, and it was really, really nice. Everybody around, obviously, that knows me now knew I was pregnant, and this treatment, people were really treating me so special. I could get whatever I wanted. If I was craving something, somebody would get it. It was just so nice. I felt like such a princess. And I really, really enjoyed that season of pregnancy, and my bump was growing and I was taking pictures with my bump. I could feel the baby move. I think I felt her move solidly. Like I can really say, okay, that was definitely baby moving, maybe around between 23 and 25 weeks. It was so special. I really, really enjoyed that. And then obviously then you start anticipating her moving every single day. It was really, 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 really beautiful. I felt really, really good up until, even into my third trimester, actually, up until a certain point, of course. Third trimester, the first month of the third trimester, I was still very much in bliss. Bump was still bumping. I still had energy. I was still loving food. I was enjoying feeling the baby kick. Everything was beautiful. I would say 28 weeks, even all the way up until 32 weeks, I felt really, really good. From week 33, that's when things took a turn. Started to get bigger. I'm pretty small. I'm only 5 foot. You can imagine, big bump, small frame. There was a lot of discomfort. This is when I started to feel a lot of pain around like my pelvic area, because everything has to move to make space for the baby, and the baby was getting bigger, which was amazing. That's what we want. My body was just really, really struggling to cope with the weight of the baby, the water, the placenta, like just everything. I was getting so heavy. I could feel it. I could feel it in my back. I could feel it everywhere. I even took a few days off work, and I was even going to see a specialist, actually physiotherapy specialist, because I was really, really struggling with my movement. The center of gravity also moves when you're pregnant, so I was a bit out of balance, and basically things were getting harder. Sleeping was becoming uncomfortable. I did get a pregnancy pillow quite early into my pregnancy, I think before I was even 20 weeks. But obviously as the bump got bigger, got more and more uncomfortable to move, to rotate. And with pregnancy as well, you're peeing a lot all the time. So getting up to go to the toilet like 5 times a night when you have to really arrange yourself was really, really tough. Towards the latter end of my pregnancy, I think I was starting to have a much harder time. And you can tell I was, because I stopped recording, like I stopped writing down my bump log. I wasn't really recording much of my pregnancy at all towards the end. Really sad about that, because I really wish I had those bump logs for all 3 trimesters, but I was tired, man. I was so tired. My maternity leave started when I was about 36 weeks, and I think I really needed that. To be honest, next pregnancy, I would even start my maternity leave earlier if I can, because I was so tired. I was so tired from work, and I even had to sit down at work eventually because it was just so hard being on my feet all day. And as a teacher, I'm a science teacher as well, like you always have to move around, especially during experiments and stuff. It was just getting the best of me, so I would probably take my maternity leave earlier. Anyway, fast forward, so we get towards the end of the pregnancy, 36 weeks, 37 weeks. I was still uncomfortable, very, very tired, very, I think my nausea also came back. Oh, heartburn. Heartburn came for me, but only towards the end of my pregnancy. I think at around 34 weeks, that's when I started to experience heartburn, and I experienced it all the way until maybe about 39 weeks. So in my head, I was like, oh, that means the baby has lots and lots of hair, which my baby didn't have lots of hair. She had hair, but like that heartburn did not equate to the amount of hair on her head. Obviously I was off now, so I could rest. I started nesting, preparing for the baby. We had a lot to declutter in our house. Prepping for a baby is actually a marathon, and I wish I had started even earlier, because towards the end, like we were really rushing because there was a lot to prepare, like preparing baby space, preparing all her clothes, because you have all the clothes, but you don't realize you have to wash them, iron them, put them away, organize them in size, and you know, stuff like that. It was just a lot. Prepare all the nappy caddies. I did have a lot of help, I will say. Like my village really came through for me. One of our aunties helped us declutter our house multiple times. One of my sisters helped me set up all the nappy caddies. She even ironed like a load of clothes for us, and there was just so much to do, but we had a lot of help. Brothers helped us set up all the baby's furniture, so her wardrobe, her chest of drawers, her crib, her next to me, all of these things. Like it was just so amazing to see people show up and support us in the way that they did. I'm getting into a little bit of the birth story, but I was overdue. I was overdue, but right on time, and I'll explain that when I talk about my birth story. So those last 2 weeks of pregnancy, I think I was done. You could see it in my face, you could see it in my demeanor. I was so done. I just didn't want to have a baby in my belly anymore. I wanted her out so that my body could feel different, but also so I could have her. I really didn't take that time to enjoy those last few weeks of pregnancy, and I wish I had, because you obviously don't know when the baby is going to come. And I think part of me went into pregnancy thinking my baby was going to come early, because my mom had all of her children early. I expected to have my baby at around 36 weeks. I hoped she would come around 38 weeks. I definitely didn't expect to go as far ahead as I did. So towards the end, I was so done. But then she came, the birth. Wow, what an experience. I genuinely do need a separate video for that, because I think it's so intense. It's so intense. to talk about in the same video as pregnancy. So I'm gonna do a separate video for my birth story. Should be out fairly soon. Let's just say birth was intense, postpartum was intense. I am now 4 months postpartum at the time of filming this, and a baby tired is so much better than pregnancy tired. So much better. Look at me, I am tired, but you can't even see it. When I was tired and I was pregnant, you could see it. It was tangible. But yeah, that is my pregnancy journey. I hope it made sense and it was cohesive of a story. I will be sharing my birth story in my next video. Hope you enjoyed this pregnancy journey. If you have any questions about pregnancy, please leave them down below. Or if you'd like to share some of the things you may have resonated with from your own pregnancy, things that you're worried about from, you know, if you are expecting to be pregnant, you wish to be pregnant one day, please let me know in the comments below and I will do my best to answer as much as I can. Of course, I'm not a medical professional, so I don't know everything, but I am more than happy to share my own experiences and what I know. And yeah, like, share, subscribe, follow me on Instagram and on TikTok. I share short form content as well, relating to all things pregnancy, birth, motherhood, lifestyle, everything. So yeah, I will see you in my next video. Bye.